to the Dungeon Plunger Podcast. My name is Jason Weeb, and this is the show in which I, a real-life janitor and dungeon master, teaches you how to plunge in and run a better Dungeons & Dragons game. Without further ado, let's plunge into this week's episode. Welcome, Dungeon Plunger Union members, to another episode of the Dungeon Plunger Podcast. I am your host, the Dunger Plunger with the most dunger. That doesn't even make any sense. But that's why you're here, isn't it? Because you like the things that don't make sense. Alright, what do we have happening this week? Well, first of all, let's get into the game report. So, I have played Session 3 of Karl D's Twilight 2000 4E game, and it was great. We had a lot of fun. Karl's a awesome game master, and we have started to move on to a town where supposedly the mayor's children have been kidnapped, and we're hoping to do some good, get those kids back, and maybe ingratiate ourselves with the mayor and potentially get some help from the locals in fighting back against the Soviets. The interesting thing about this game has been just how stressful it's been every time that we encounter new characters along the road. And you kind of worry, are these people going to screw us over? Like, are we inviting people into our group? Kind of like The Walking Dead, where every time they encounter new people, you take that risk of, we want to do right by people, but at the same time, the laws that govern a normal civilization have sort of fallen by the wayside. So it's been an interesting experience, to say the least. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing where this game is going to go forward in the future. But Karl's been doing great, and he's been creating all sorts of interesting resources to help him run the game. And one of the things that I really love that Karl does is that we play the game online, and he uses a thing called Miro, which I'd never heard of before. And this is essentially what he uses instead of Roll20 or any other sort of VTT that's designed for games. And so he creates these really great tables that basically allow us to use them as a game board. He puts up images that are taken from the games, and we're able to move our characters around or our tokens to represent the group. And I really, really love the effort that he puts into, supplying us with these tools to play the game. Yeah, so we've had them for our Mothership game that he was doing, and that worked out really, really well. And I almost feel like it would be an interesting topic to sort of cover, what are the different resources that are available for people to use to run their games online? Because I feel like a lot of people who listen to this show probably have played online or are thinking about playing online. So we'll definitely take that into consideration. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's my super professional drinking my holy water, aka my cup of coffee, on the pod. That's right. Do you call it a pod or do you call it a cast? Obviously it's a podcast, but when you're trying to be hip and shorten things down, what do you call it? On Monday ran a horrible Deadlands game. I was very disappointed with myself. My players, my youth group, said that they really enjoyed themselves, but I just felt like I really was constantly having to look into the rule book to understand how various things worked. And while typically in this scenario, I would sort of just hand-wavium things and just roll it along for the sake of the story, I really want to learn this system. I really, really have enjoyed a lot of what it is that makes Savage Worlds interesting. So I love the bennies. I love the cards. I love the simplification of sort of the game. The only kind of things that I found were a little difficult is having to keep track of giving out bennies. So they get 3 bennies to start off with, and the rules encourage, and I've had other people encourage me to give out bennies during the game. But I just find in the very short period of time that we play, I feel like we play about 2 to 3 hours. It's hard for me to give out bennies because they don't really use them all that much. And maybe if I was giving them out more freely, that would encourage them to use them more. I'm not really sure. The other part that kind of makes running Savage Worlds a little difficult for me, at least, is constantly having to calculate out modifiers as the game is going along. So like if you want to do something in the game, you always need to get a target number of 4, which is very simple. However, that's always modified by something. So either you're going to get a bonus or you're going to get a penalty depending on the circumstances of like how many actions you're taking, how far away is a dude, all that kind of stuff. And so that part, I find those are the two sort of tricky parts. And then what's really impressive about this game, though, is that it really does cover a lot, and I mean a lot of those things that you would typically find in a game where it's like, okay, how do you do chases? How do you do grenades? How do you do guns? How do you do magic? How do you do, melee fighting, cover, all of the, swimming, running, like every sort of important task is sort of covered by the rules, but it doesn't feel exhaustive in the sense of like, okay, we need to have a system to rule for everything. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's clear, but I do want to master the game, and I do want to get much better at playing it because I do see the potential for this and why people really, really enjoy it. So I think it's just going to take some time, and I'm just going to need to get a little bit more experience playing that game. Oh, what else is happening? The Dungeon Plunger Union is expanding and growing. I am so excited and happy to say that I now have a Instagram channel for Dungeon Plunger. I have a TikTok channel for Dungeon Plunger. So if those things are your bag, you'll be getting updates on those. So I'm going to try and, do some flashy stuff and try to get out the good word. Trying to break out into YouTube Shorts. I've already done a little bit of an experiment of that, so you can see that if you check out the YouTubes. And talking about YouTubes, so far, I've gotten up to 60 subscribers, and I'm super stoked and super happy about that. You guys have been so amazing. All of you who have subscribed and supported the channel and its growth, I can't thank you enough. And I have a goal that I want to get up to at least 500 subscribers. And I know we can do this. I know it's a big ask. I know you guys hate the doing the like and the clicking and the stuff that is so common now in our digital zeitgeist, but it would make me super happy to be able to get the channel rocking and rolling so that more people are aware of the Dungeon Plunger and my mission to make you all better dungeon masters. Because let's face it, what is best in life, Conan? To crush your players, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their characters. That's right, Conan. Becoming the best dungeon master ever. And, I've just decided from now on, F all of you. You now dungeon masters. Okay, I don't care what game you're playing. You be playing Scrabble, you're a dungeon master. You playing checkers, you're a dungeon master. Parcheesi, dungeon master. It don't matter what game it is, y'all dungeon masters.
Oh, but Jason, I play the generic universal role-playing system, and in that, we don't have dungeons unless you're playing in Dungeon Fantasy, and then...
Listen, dude, I don't care. You're a dungeon master, okay? Deal with it. Mothership, dungeon master, all right? All you dungeon masters. Ooh, my blood pressure's going up. Gonna have to see my doctor about that. Just do me a favor then. Just go with it, okay? Subscribe, press the like button, and spread the good word of the Dungeon Plunger. All right, y'all? Okay. Lastly, I just want to conclude. I've got a super fantastic interview coming up with none other than Karl Rodriguez on Monday. I hope you guys listen to it. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you become one with the Karl Rodriguez. And listen, I need to make a distinction here, okay? And really just put out a question to all you listeners. Karl Rodriguez is with a K, And my game master in my Twilight 2000 game is Karl D with a C. Now, I think we need to decide once and for all, what is the real way of spelling Karl? Karl with a K? Karl with the C? Because, I don't know, dude. Like, look, we got so many Jasons out there, and, you know, they're all pretty much spelled the same. However, I will say, I have seen, on a very, very rare occasion, a Jason with a C in it, like Jacen instead of Jason, and that's just wrong, okay? I give you my full permission to ridicule the Jasons with a C in their name, okay? Not Jason Connerly. I mean, like, if they spell their name with a C inside it, instead of son, it's Sen. Anyway, you know what I'm saying, all right? Anyway, I got a buttload of phone calls to get through, and then we'll hit up that delicious, meaty main topic, and, you know, you're just going to have to keep listening to hear what that is. Okay, this is a little bit of a surprise episode. Like to keep things real and mysterious. So, let's open up the Mimic mailbox.
Special delivery! Oh God! Oh God! I hate delivering to this place.
First up on the chopping block, we got Ray Otis.
Hey Jason, this is Ray Otis. Been enjoying listening to your Dungeon Plumber podcast, and I just wanted to weigh in real quickly on the idea of rules crunchy versus rules light, or crunchy versus smooth. A litmus test I found really useful lately is just to ask two questions. The first is, how long does it take to learn the basics in order to get playing? And the second is, how long does it take to internalize the game? Meaning, at what point do you stop questioning your rulings and looking things up, and you feel like you really know the system? And the shorter both of those curves are, the more smooth a game is, regardless of how many pages there are in the rulebook. And the longer it takes, the crunchier it is, again, regardless of how many pages there are in the rulebook. So there's one answer for you, and I'll let others weigh in with theirs.
First of all, I just want to say thank you very much for the call, Ray. Really appreciate it. I'm so glad that you're listening. You've always been an inspiration to me, so to know that you're actually taking the time to listen to my podcast is pretty freaking special, if you ask me. I find that definition to be a very fascinating one. I'd never really considered it. So, I mean, basically what you're saying is that rules crunch is subjective, and I think that's probably not a bad way of looking at it. So thank you so much for your perspective. Thank you again for listening and calling in. I really appreciate it, Ray, and I hope to hear from you again in the future, man. Next up, we got a call from Karl Rodriguez. And remember, Karl with a K. I'm not saying that it's the wrong way. I'm going to let you, as a listener, decide, because we all know where Karl with a K stands on the spelling, and it's 100% his way is the right way. All right? Now let's just listen. Forget about that nonsense, okay? I'm getting divisive here for no reason. I'm starting fights for no reason. I take it back. Let's just listen to what Karl has to say.
Hey there, Weeb. I'm driving in my car. The temperature in the car says 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but I don't think so. I think it's hotter than that. It is true, it is 92 degrees Fahrenheit outside, which according to the heat index feels like 100. So I think that's about 38 in real world temperature, about, I'm guessing. It can get way hotter. I think the only reason that it's cool is there's a breeze because it looks like a storm's coming in. But anyway, that's why you might hear that shh in the background. I'm thinking that's the air conditioner in my car lasting. But the point, I really like your Law and Chaos, which you said. It is true, man. It's been tough for me, not just because of my career change and my, I guess, severe income drop, but just the way the world is. I don't know why it is the way it is. It's probably a test of some sort by a bunch of aliens. In any case, gaming does help me. And when you were saying that, especially when you said a game doesn't have to be good, it just has to be. I think I even mouthed that quote while you were saying it, because that is exactly what I thought. Sometimes they're not great, but they hold the secret, kind of like that Canadian band Triumph says about music. Sometimes it holds the secret, sometimes it can make you whole, right? So hold on. Anyway, that's Triumph, by the way. So thanks for the podcast. I really haven't called in. I don't know what else to say, what other people have said about the interviews that you've had, especially with Bill Webb. It seems like his journey, though 5 years a head start, is about the same as mine, except of course he became a writer and stuff, and I dropped the ball somewhere way back. Anyway, I will talk to you soon. Keep up the wonderful podcast. And I'm a little maybe jealous that you got to jump into a T2K game that the other Karl got to run and not me. All right, bye.
Well, there you have it, folks. It's not just me that's trying to be divisive here. Karl, clearly have it out with the other Karl about who's going to be my Twilight 2000 Game Master. And honestly, who is not down for a battle royale like that? I mean, come on, guys. It's every nerd's dream to have someone fight over them, to have them in their game. You know what I'm saying? Don't fight, guys. Listen, it's just letters. It's okay. You know what? I think in order to solve the C. Karl, K. Karl issue, you both should just change your names to Jason and get it over with, okay? Because ultimately, that's what's most important. All right? Well, Karl, you know what you do win a prize for, though? You win a car for driving, You win a prize for being in a car, making a call, listening to my show, and not being boring. All right? And when I heard you say that a storm is coming in, I felt like, hell yeah, a storm is coming in. 'Cause dude, you bring the storm. You are the storm. When it comes down to talking about life being a test, I was totally with you, and then you threw me that curveball with the aliens. But now that you say it, I'm starting to wonder. I'm thinking maybe, just maybe, it is the aliens. How much of a surprise would that be if all of a sudden we just found out, like, all of this chaos that's been happening for the last few years has all been just a gag by aliens experimenting. They've moved beyond anal probing and have now decided to mess with our political system. Oh, aliens, you crazy, bro. But dude, you bring up the whole thing about gaming and gaming helping and, that the game doesn't have to be good, it just has to be. And even I forget my own advice when talking about my own Savage Worlds game. But you're right. It does help, and I'm glad that you and others found that episode useful because, sometimes you say to yourself, is the stuff that I'm putting out actually meaningful to other people? And so to get that kind of feedback is greatly appreciated. And lastly, just to talk about Triumph, when you brought that up, I immediately had that soundbite from the Offspring's album where it was like, music calms even the savage beast. So yeah. Thanks for calling in, Karl. Really appreciate you listening, buddy. And really glad that you took the time to call in, man. It means a lot to me. Next up, Joe Richter from Hindsightless.
Yo, what's up, Jason? Sitting at the airport, waiting for my flight, and I thought I'd call in and talk a little about Pathfinder, even though I missed your call to call in about Pathfinder on your previous episode, Law versus Chaos. Anyway, that's what I'm doing now, man. I'm waiting for my flight to Montana so then I can drive to go to Billings. I'm flying into Billings, then driving from Billings to where my friend lives in Wyoming, which is like a 3-hour drive. I am clearly not driving. My friend is. It's going to be awesome. Anyway, man, first off, I want to say I really do enjoy the new music. I think it's cool. It's still got a metal edge to it. I think it's awesome. So congrats on that. So let's talk some Pathfinder. I just got finished listening to Jason talk about how Pathfinder is a combat simulator, combat board game. And yeah, while I do appreciate his very kind words about me being a good game master for Pathfinder, I try, thank you, Jason. I do want to push back a little bit against that. Like, if you're playing on Roll20, Pathfinder on Roll20, sure, it might feel like a combat board game. Part of that reason is I am sort of trying to get through Wrath of the Righteous as fast as possible. We're over 3 years now, and I would like to wrap this up. So I'm not diving as deep into role-playing scenes as I could or would if we were playing in person. But I also want to say you can absolutely play Pathfinder without maps and minis. I've done it a ton. The majority of my in-person Pathfinder games that I've run have been without maps and minis. Man, I want to be in Group B as in beautiful, but that's not my flight. But I feel beautiful just hearing it. Anyway, dude, yeah, I don't know that Pathfinder is any more of a combat simulator than any version of D&D, really. Like, yeah, man, I don't think it is. More so than any of the other ones. They all are kind of combat simulators, but you can do so much else. There's so many other things in Pathfinder you can do where it's not a combat simulator. Hopefully I plan on running War for the Crown, which is one of the last adventures Paizo wrote for first edition, at least the first couple books of it. And it's a very much more political intrigue type of adventure path than Wrath of the Righteous, where you're just straight up fighting demons, man. So yeah, you can do a lot with Pathfinder. You can do a whole lot with Pathfinder other than just fight. Anyway, man, that's it for me from the airport. Elbows up. Peace out. Yo, what up, Jason? Still at the airport, still listening to your episode, You Owe Your Allegiance to D&D, and you just got finished telling me how your interview with Shay is going to cure erectile dysfunction for folks, and that's awesome, man. That pumps me up. But I'm calling because I just wanted to second what you said in response to that message on your main topic. It doesn't really matter what game you're running. You can still take general advice and theory about games. I run games from Pathfinder to Apocalypse World to Call of Cthulhu to There and Back Again by Ray Otis, like all sorts of different games that require different rules and skill sets, but I can still take lessons from one game and apply it to another game. That's just critical thinking, right? Like, I don't need to listen to a podcast just about Monster Hearts in order to understand how to be a good runner of Monster Hearts, man. Which, by the way, Monster Hearts is an amazing game. Sexy teen monsters, get out of here. I love it. Anyway, dude, Anyway, that's it for me. Peace out, elbows up.
Hey, Joe, thank you so much for your call, dude. Really appreciate it. I think that Joe is just trying to flex here, and he's like, oh, I'm not driving. Like, oh, I have visual issues, and so therefore I'm not driving. No, he's all like, I ain't boring. I ain't boring and driving. It's okay, Joe. You can listen to the podcast and drive. It's all good. Nobody's going to dump on you for that, all right? But I do want to thank you for appreciating the music. My man, Reed is the best. And yes, I enjoy the metal. And I immediately thought of Jack Black when you said that about the metal. They tried to kill the metal. But yeah, Reed won't let them, you know? and neither will I. I am a staunch guardian of the metal. Let's talk some Pathfinder. Dude, I am behind you 100% that Pathfinder is not just a combat simulator. And I do agree that part of the problem, like you said, is much of the way the Pathfinder adventure paths are sort of laid out kind of expects, at least the ones that I've read, that, you know, you're going to probably deal with those problems via combat. And the fact that you have such easy access to all these cool tools to make combat fun and exciting makes it more likely that you probably will want to fight stuff, right? Also, playing on Roll20, having a battle mat grid sort of thing set up in front of you sort of also kind of maybe causes the primal brain to like go, okay, yeah, we're ready for a fight. This is going to lead to a fight, you know? Also, man, I just want you to know, you're always been beautiful to me, okay? No matter what they say at the airport. But going back to the Pathfinder thing. So really, it is true about how you use the tools and how you run the game. And it doesn't need to be a combat simulator. It doesn't need to be all about combat. And you're right, there are a lot of games that have a heavy emphasis on combat that also don't necessarily just become combat simulators, right? So yeah, dude, I totally got your back on that, and I appreciate that you have that you agree with my, you know, what I was saying in the last episode, talking about how, you know, giving general advice is not necessarily useless for other games. I am not really sure if that episode cured anyone's erectile dysfunction. The test results haven't come back yet, but if that episode did solve that issue for you, please let me know so that I can, get the patent on that and maybe make a little bit of money back. You know, that would be great. Also, Karl. Jesus, now everyone's Karl. And that's okay, because all the Karls I know are freaking cool. But what I was going to say is, you were looking for the word for the game master of Monster Hearts, and the answer to that is Dungeon Master. Well, thank you so much for the call, dude. Always appreciate it, and we will chat later, and, keep keep those elbows elevated, my dude. All right, moving on, we got an awesome, most epic call from that southernest of southern gentlemen, Evil Jeff.
Weeb, it's Evil Jeff. Just listen to the latest podcast, Your Allegiance one. Great job there. Well thought out. Keep that passion going. Appreciate it. And I look forward to what you have coming up here. What you got? Conversation with Che and Jason, it sounds like. But, it's that other content that's pretty cool, too. Like that last interview that you did as well with Rob Conley. Yeah, that was pretty awesome as well. So, look forward to your next stuff coming out.
Sometimes I wish that I was as Evil Jeff. And when I mean evil, I mean cool. Because I think that's really what Evil Jeff means when he says that he's evil. You know? Like, it would be pretty presumptuous for him to go around being like, hey, I'm cool, Jeff. But I think he means like, when you say, oh, dude, that's like fat, but not like fat, but like pH fat, No? Okay. Well, anyway, dude, thank you so much for the call. Really appreciate it. Glad that you're enjoying the interviews. I've got lots more coming and lots more planned. I'm constantly reaching out to new guests to come on and talk about gaming, Dungeons and Dragons, how to be a freaking awesome Dungeons and Dragons player, how to be a freaking awesome dungeon master, all those cool things, right? And yeah, so you just stay tuned, and I promise there will be more epicness to come. Hang in there, buddy. I don't know why I said that. Like, you know, but maybe you needed to hear that. Maybe this was the universe reaching out to me and saying, hey, Evil Jeff, you hang in there. All right. Next up, we have another Southern brother. None other than Jason Connerly. And really, he is a brother from another mother. And, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Hey, Jason, the other Jason, just want to call in after listening to You Owe Your Allegiance to D&D and say, bravo, sir, bravo. By the way, you know, I'm not totally down on Pathfinder 1. Some of the best role-playing I've ever seen has occurred in that Wrath of the Righteous game. Just because the game mechanically is kind of built around combat doesn't mean you can't role-play in there. And we have like a character that keeps a character journal of their character's inner thoughts. And I've seen some amazing role-playing in that game. People just inheriting those characters. People coming to tears because of outcomes due to the interaction with other PCs and NPCs. So the system, like you say, is secondary to the group and to the skills of the Dungeon Master and the skills the players bring to the game. So system can help, but system is by far the least important thing in a role-playing game, in my opinion. So great job, and I will talk to you soon.
Hey, Jason, thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate it. Glad that you share my sentiment that the rules are not the be-all and the end-all. And, dude, I gotta ask you, what the hell kind of a game is Joe Richter running when he's making people cry? You know? Like, jeez, man. Joe, go easy on him, bro. You know? People go to roleplay to, you know, blow off some steam. You know? Don't we cry enough in the real life, or is that just me? Okay, maybe it's just me. Maybe I need to get some therapy. But dude, that's pretty awesome. And I have to say, there are some people out there who keep the most amazing character journals, and I'm always impressed with the tenacity and the writing ability of the people who do these epic journals. So thanks for sharing, man. And I look forward to chatting with you later and the release of our secret project. Sometimes I just amuse myself. Next up, we've got the man with the plan from the Pacific Northwest, the most artisty of artists, John McNally. Let's hear what he has to say.
Hi, Jason. It's Dungeon Plunger Union member John McNally calling from the Pacific Northwest with a quick comment on your musings about how long your game with Hole in the Oak seems to be lasting. You seem pleasantly surprised, I guess, at how interested the players continue to be, and just wanted to share that I've experienced the same. One of my favorite games that I've ever run was a 3-year campaign. It was monthly sessions, so 36 sessions or so, exploring this location, Castle Gygar, that was like a 3-level dungeon, probably no more than 50 rooms. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was an open table format, and the players had a great time. And they essentially just cleared the dungeon over the course of 3 years, going into the dungeon, coming back out for supplies when they needed to, going back into the dungeon. And it was so much fun. I would totally do it again. And it just speaks to how, with the right group, you can get a lot out of just a single well-designed location. Who needs a mega dungeon when you have a tidy little map full of interesting stuff and the right group of players? Talk to you soon.
Hey, John, thank you so much for your call. And yeah, man, dude, Hole and Oak is such a great dungeon, and I've really, really enjoyed running it. And I've really been thinking about doing a review on it because I think it's worthwhile to spread the good word. I mean, yeah, I'm sure people, who are in the know, but I'm sure there's lots out there that don't know. I meant to download and look at Castle Gygar before recording, and I completely forgot until I re-listened to your call for this, for doing the show. So I'm just looking at it right now on drive-through, and dude, this is fabulous, man. I came out of Dungeon 23 project, and basically the guy put it all together. I mean, we got like Chocolips, I think that's how you say his name, but the dude, he did some of the art, and he is one of the guys who's really big into solo play. I believe he has his own YouTube channel, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, man, it looks cool, and I can't believe, like, it's only 64 pages. So, like, it just goes to show you with all these huge mega dungeons, and I mean, it labels itself as a mega dungeon that you can play with OSR, BX, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, whatever, dude. 5E. Oh, it even says here 5E, like 5 and then EE, or Fantasy Heartbreaker. So yeah, it doesn't give a crap what game you're playing. And yeah, man, this is pretty rad. But yeah, as I'm saying, it doesn't matter. The page count isn't what's super important. It's this content of like what you get in those pages. And so the fact that you had a campaign that lasted for so long is pretty amazing. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, John, for calling. Like I said, I really appreciate it. And I look forward to chatting with you in the future. I know there's been a little bit of talk about doing a D6 Star Wars game at some point, maybe, which, dude, oh man, like, count me in, brother. Alrighty. And next up, we have a call from a new caller named Flower, who is part of the cast of A Pint of Cthulhu. So, welcome, Flower, and let's listen to what you have to say.
Hello? Is this thing on? Yeah, I think so. Yes. Hello, Dungeon Plunderer. It's I, Flower, from A Pint of Cthulhu podcast. Just listened to some of the episodes, including one way interviewing my friends. I was going to wait until I caught up, but I wanted to do something now. Yes, I say my experiences from my own stuff. I don't know which episode this will come out to. My experience is I'd been a player, side of a player, but also went on to GMing and ended up joining the podcast because I found Matt and everybody via their podcast, and when there was space, they invited me in, and my experiences were my experiences for podcasts were just like D&D, running D&D, playing D&D, and I thought, oh, why not joining a podcast and help out? It's my experience, my 2 cents to, if anybody wants to do a podcast and start any games, just do it. Flower again from A Pint of Cthulhu. Just popping in to tell you you're doing a great job. I'm enjoying these podcasts so much. Got me thinking. I will admit I am listening to your episodes in the gym, going for my walks, but also a little bit treat myself in work, and obviously driving to work and driving to other places. But doing a great job. From as a player, I'd say for anyone to help out with your GM. Your GM suggests certain thing, go with it, my advice is the whole cliche of yes and no but. Yes and this happens. No, but this happens. Just keep going with it. Don't basically you don't have to let all the rolls go past, because the failed rolls can be more fun, more meaningful than a pass, and it gets a better story as well. So just roll them dice, live with the consequences, and make a better character. And GM, just go crazy. Yes, it's Flower again for the final little rant for this little episode, or whenever it break into. My recommendation for me is a GM. I've only really run D&D because it was my staple, but I like taking other media or different systems to take little bits out. I've only ever played really 5e. I've played other ones with a podcast like Blistered Critters, Fallout, like some of the smaller ones. Something I'd love to try, but I tend to go for 5e 2014. There's a lot of some of the 24. I'm probably going to take little bits out, but I'm not going to main the 24 rules, but I'll just take out what I want. But I personally, I like for D&D DMing, I take out the bits I want and not use the ones I don't want. But I'm also taking bits from Karl Cthulhu, like you can push the roll. You may if you push the roll and succeed, great. But if you don't, it's basically the worst thing that could happen. But I'd only let it happen once per episode. But yeah, just consume the media. Consume the media.
Thanks so much for the call, Flower. That was excellent, and you make a lot of really great points. First of all, if you want to do a podcast or if you want a game, just do it. That has been my mantra and my message to all of you out there. Just do it! Shia LaBeouf style, all right? Just do. What are you waiting for? Just do it! All right, enough of that silliness. Also, all of y'all should be like Flower. Listen to the podcast everywhere, all right? Like he says, he listens to it in the car, he listens to it working out, he listens to it walking. This is what you all should be doing. 24/7, listen to the podcast, okay? And you're like, but Dungeon Plunger, I've listened to all your episodes already. Listen to them again! Internalize them, memorize them! You know what I'm saying? All right. I'm glad that we have an accord, because I just felt like saying that. All right. Also, what else did Flower have to say here? Okay, so first of all, I do really want to thank you for the encouragement, Flower. You've said some really nice things, and I really appreciate that you're enjoying the show. And as far as your gaming advice goes, I think these are some excellent piece of advice. I love the fact of the improv mantra of yes and or no but. I mean, that is definitely really good advice, and that should be taken to heart. It's a challenge, though, to get into the habit of that, right? I think we need to train ourselves to remember, like, oh, yeah, okay, so I find, like, when it happens, you need to catch yourself and be like, oh, yeah, okay, next time I'm going to do that. The next thing that comes up, yes, and, okay, crap, no, but, So, yeah, I think that's perfect. And also, I love what you say about failed roles and living the consequences, because honestly, that is, I think sometimes in failure, we actually can, get a better story, so to speak. I know there's people out there that don't like calling it a story, but what I'm saying is that the results basically become more interesting in failure than in success. if we succeed all the time, right? And I also really love how you allow the use of the push mechanic from Call of Cthulhu, which basically allows you to re-roll, essentially saying like, okay, you have to sort of narrate, well, why didn't my character succeed in the beginning, and how are they doing something to put more effort into the task? And then if they fail it this time, there's going to be some sort of a consequence, greater negative consequence because of that. So I think the push mechanic from Call of Cthulhu 7th edition is definitely one of those ones that you can steal and use in just about any RPG. It's kind of like 5th edition's advantage mechanic. It's one of those things that once you've used it, you're like, oh my God, why aren't we using this in everything? So good call on that one. And I love the idea of the GM go crazy mantra. And yes, I do give you permission, all of you game masters, dungeon masters, to go crazy. All right. And lastly, the take other media and consume the media and all of that and apply it to your game. So that's what my next episode is going to be on, is talking about, gathering the media and the resources and, what you read and what you watch and all that, and applying it to your game mastering. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that's definitely, the topic that I'm covering next. So yeah, man, thanks so much for the call, and I'm glad you're enjoying the show, and keep on keeping on, my brother. Lastly, but not leastly, we have the caster of shadows, Anthony Runeslinger Boyd. Let's hear what Anthony has to say.
Hey, Jason. It's Anthony calling in from the boring road with some anecdotes. In your most recent episode, you mentioned that old gym, Fluff and Crunch. And you, like many other people, have raised some questions about Fluff and Crunch, and I've done a little investigating into that. Not a lot. I don't have a precise point in time when it entered usage, but I do have some very common references that have come my way. 3, in fact, that I'd like to share with you about the meaning or the metaphor of Fluff and Crunch. All right, the first one, Fluff and Crunch, is an ice cream metaphor. So we take ice cream being the game and the group, and then the fluff, well, that's that marshmallowy stuff that people like to put on their ice cream sundaes. And the crunch, well, that's nuts and chocolate chips and all of that stuff. So the fluff, very sweet, it's kind of a connective tissue in the sundae that is the game. And the crunch, not everybody goes for the crunch, but it's a delightful change of texture in the midst of all that wonderful ice cream. The balance of fluff and crunch is personal. It's kind of interesting to think about playing without any fluff. That's your universal systems. And it's kind of interesting to think about playing without any crunch. And we've seen those out there too when people say, we played all night and we didn't use the system once. We didn't even roll any dice. Metaphor number 1. Metaphor number 2, well, it's not as delicious. Here, the metaphor is a dandelion. The fluff is, of course, the white stuff when the dandelion reaches that certain stage. And the crunch is the stem of the dandelion. Fluff and crunch. So without the stem, the dandelion has no structure, has nothing to hold it up. Without the crunch, it has nothing to give it shape or form or keep it out of trouble. Without the fluff, though, well, the game doesn't spread. It can't reach other people. can't turn your lawn into a sea of yellow and then a sea of white madness. Fluff and Crunch, the dandelion metaphor. Metaphor number 2. Metaphor number 3, well, if you're a little squeamish, this might not be the one for you, but anyway, number 3 is a bird. The crunch is the skeletal system of the bird, which of course defines it as a bird, gives its shape, and allows all of its various connecting tissues, including us players, to be bound together. But it's the fluff, the feathers, the down, which enables this structure to take flight and inspire us in the way that a role-playing game does. Now, in this metaphor, the balance between the fluff and the crunch is very different from what we see in the first metaphor. More similar to what we see in the second, that these two things are essential, which takes some of the fun out of the metaphor. But anyway, those are 3 things that I've found in my years talking about fluff and crunch that have been repeated to me. By far the most common is the ice cream one, number 1. But I'd be very curious about where it came from and what the original image was, if anybody knows that, or if they find out in the future. Think about me and pass that information my way. I'd be really curious to know what imagery sparked the notion of fluff and crunch. The concept we all get, it all gets transmitted, but where did the original choice of fluff come from, and where did the original choice of crunch come from? I'd be pretty happy if it turned out to be the ice cream metaphor, but I suspect it's something else. Anyway, I enjoyed the show. Hope you're doing well. Take care.
Thanks so much for the call. I super appreciate that, Anthony. That was such a great example of what fluff and crunch is. I found all of them to be, very apt and hilarious in their own little ways. I particularly found the idea of fluff and crunch being a bird, and for some reason, all I could think of was Golem grabbing a bird out of the sky and eating it, and getting both the fluff and crunch. I think, you did bring up some interesting points that I thought were really good. First of all, the concept of, that we played all night and didn't even roll any dice. That's so strange to think that playing a role-playing game, that somehow that defines the game. This concept of rolling the dice seems to be a very important one, at least in my earlier days of playing the game. I think now how we've moved on to different, more storyteller focused games, that dice rolling seems to have become of lesser importance, at least. I think that, but if you contrast that, interestingly enough, with what an old school OSR style game might be, in a lot of cases, you didn't have a skill system yet, or even if you're playing with that OSR mindset, the idea that you would roll a die to disarm a trap, to climb a wall, to do a variety of different tasks is kind of crazy, right? They would just be hey, dude, just describe your actions and then those things are going to happen. We don't need to roll a die for it, right? So the fact that somewhere along the line, rolling dice and using that as some sort of a benchmark became really important. And that's kind of strange if you ask me, right? Because even in the games where they're more game, where you're using more player skill than necessarily, a character sheet to decide things, that wasn't necessarily always the case, right? And I think, one of the other things that I find very interesting is this concept that, we make a distinction between crunch and fluff and saying, okay, so one's a rule system and one is more the setting information. And Dungeons and Dragons kind of has that both sort of interwoven into the game, right? Because while Dungeons and Dragons has its own settings like Forgotten Realms and Greyhawk and blah, 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 there is sort of like an implied setting that's there, that exists, right? It says that according to the monster manual that, you're going to have these kinds of monsters and this sort of ecology, and that, these are the kinds of spells that a wizard can have, and this is how clerics get their magic, and the kind of like expectations of druids, and a variety of other sorts of like, concepts that only really exist because of the mechanics of the game, right? You wouldn't necessarily be able to run a Lord of the Rings game or a Game of Thrones or a variety of other fantasy settings if you went with the rules as written, right? So there is this implied sort of setting that exists that says, that these are the kinds of experiences that you're going to encounter and how you're going to deal with them. So I wonder if on some level that might be part of the reason for D&D's longevity, because it masterfully combines crunch and fluff. I don't know. Maybe I'm just imagining stuff. It wouldn't be the first time. Anyway, all of you have your mission if you choose to accept it, and that is to find out and provide Anthony and myself with the documentation to show us, where does crunch and fluff come from? What is the origins of this? We need to get to the bottom of this, alongside with the whole JFK thing, and also Jimmy Hoffa. All right? So if any of you have any information on any of those things, let me know. All right. So I didn't realize how many calls that I got this week. And it's so funny because when I ask for calls, it's like sometimes the calls just come in and it's a little trickle. And then when I ask for the calls, it's like a waterfall. And don't get me wrong, I love getting calls. I love hearing your messages. Send in the messages via the email. Send them in via SpeakPipe. And if we're on Discord together, you can send them a voice message and send it to me on Discord. And because I just want to hear from you, and I want to talk with you guys, and just have that connection over the radio waves, even though we're not really going over radio waves. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, my point being here is that I got a buttload of phone calls this week, and the episode went way longer than I was expecting it to. So I'm going to be saving my main topic, which is what Flower was talking about, being, talking about basically consuming your content and fiction and nonfiction and all the rest of that kind of stuff, and how we can use it in our games to make us better dungeon masters. All right. So that's going to be on the next episode, but please send your comments, send your concerns, send me nudes. Just kidding. Don't send me nudes. You sick people. And I will leave it at that. Elbows up high, babies. Raise those +1 plungers. And till we see each other next time, be cool. That's all for this week, folks. Music and Stingers by Reed Reimer of Fable Factory Studio. cover art by John McNally, and a special thanks to Edward Vallee, the voice of Hecktor.
Greetings, listener. This is I, Hecktor, the real Dungeon Plunger, not that milk drinker Jason. We in the dungeon always appreciate whatever love you can give us. So please, share the podcast, send your messages, and do anything that will unclog our algorithm. We really appreciate it. Plungers, up!
And remember, when you're plunging in the dungeon and nature calls, watch out for mimics disguised as toilets. They're a pain in the butt.